Man, we're in space. I was thinking about being in the void, but instead I chose space. This time, we're talking about how to acquire and purchase a reptile on the internet. Not necessarily what reptile you should select or which ones among a species, more just like what are the processes, best practices, some tips of acquiring or buying a reptile on the internet. The first one is if you're extremely new, I would avoid, for now, Facebook or Instagram at the beginning, because it's kind of hard to tell what's a real vendor and what's a scam. A lot of the such and such species for rehoming groups are like insta scams. You already know. They don't know what they have. They don't have anything. They're in another country. They're just going to steal your money. There are real people there, but maybe in the beginning stick to platform-based sales until you learn who's a real person in the hobby. So that's advice number one. Number two, ideally before you even start, you would know your species and know your budget. I would resist the urge to inquire and message people about snakes you know you don't want or can't afford. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they just want to talk or get a feel for the person. A lot of my tips exist to help vendors, people selling things, reduce the sort of burden of customer service. Because some people, I guess, think we're all existing to just chat. We certainly aren't. Maybe some people are. And if you want to talk about the species in general, that's different than like disguising that discussion in the context of a sale. Just message them on Instagram. Don't pretend to buy. Before you start, know your budget. Know also how to care for the animal you already are interested in. Just at least generally, if not specifically. Especially if you haven't kept it before, I don't think you should be messaging people to talk to them about buying them if you don't even know how to take care of them. Spend even a couple days Googling around, watch some YouTube videos for the care of the species you're interested in, and then start to inquire. A lot of people get to the buying part before they get to the any other else part. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I mean, it's pretty obvious, but a lot of people assume they know what they're doing way in advance, and I'm not sure you should assume that all the time. So research first, buy later. Also, you should have housing. So even if you know how to take care of them, it doesn't actually make that much sense that, and this happens to me a decent amount, you would be buying something and then telling the vendor to hold for any more than a couple days until you get whatever the animal needs housing wise. If you're like 90% of the way there, you just need a new heat pad or a new UVB lamp, great, you're pretty close. So you could be like, ship me next week. But if you don't have anything yet, maybe wait until you have it so you know you're actually ready and you're not putting the animal in a compromised position. That's great advice. And a lot of people will hold until you get the setup perfect. But you should definitely be working on almost a complete setup before you ever message anyone, in my opinion. As always, these are all my opinions. Don't listen to me. If you want to know the specific care requirements for your animal from the particular vendor, because you like want to match the habitat you're making to the habitat they already have, that's fine to ask them. But I find it a little bit disconcerting that people will basically ask for a complete care sheet from the person they're buying from. That's not your responsibility as the vendor. The buyer should know 90%, but maybe they're like, hey, how do you do your UVB? Because I want to do this kind of bulb. What do you recommend? What do you use right now? And so then that would be a very normal conversation. But sometimes people will inquire and basically ask for all of the care. everything. They know nothing, and they need a full hand-holding. And the internet exists for a reason. So you research first, ask very specific questions when it's time. Also, before inquiring, I would read the entire animal listing, every piece of information that's there, and the store policy, which reading is hard. I know we don't do it anymore. Because usually 90% of the questions that I get are answered in the store policy, basically, because I have a pretty exhaustive one. If your question isn't answered in the store policy, then go for it, big dog. You can ask it. But read as much as you can. If you want to double check stuff, it's fine. Like if the weight or whatever property of the animal you think is outdated, ask. Go for it, big dog. But if the weight on there is given with a date that's within, a month or two, I don't know if you need a new weight. A lot of people will date the weight. It rhymes. I would also, before you inquire, check any of the breeder's website, social media, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, Facebook, any of those things, check all of them. Look at them. Are they a creeper? Are they weird? Do you like them? Do they have nice stuff? Scary stuff? Do they not look like they live in the country? Do they not look like their hands match from picture to picture to picture? Check all those things, because that would be before you inquire, you just check all that. Do they seem normal? Great. And maybe they don't have a website, but they were interviewed on a podcast somewhere. Awesome. Go. Listen to that. See if you like what you hear, if they sound like a person you want to do business with. Before you inquire, you're free to check all those things, because a lot of people will assume the best, assume the worst, and send people money. But you're free to figure it all out way in advance, because most people have revealed their hand many times. Many times already. You don't have to send them money. We already know they're scary. And somebody will tell you. And maybe if you have a friend who's more been in the hobby a little bit longer, maybe talk to more people, they would give you their own take. Oh, that guy's kind of cool, but he does such and such. So you have to decide if you want to support that. And you're like, yeah, I don't care. And then great. But he'll send you a snake that you buy. And you bought it. He's not going to send you the wrong one or do it like bait and switch, which happens sometimes. So try that too. And now, before you get started, you have to know how shipping works if you're going to ship. Reptiles are overnighted. They're normally shipped Monday through Wednesday, and they are picked up the next day. Most people want you to pick up at a FedEx ship center. A FedEx ship center may not be very close to your house. So you could ask them to ship to your door, which most people now will consider if the weather is pretty good. Some people are still only ship center onlys. Some people will do either one, either way. And some people will do ship to your door if the weather is not 100 degrees, not so extreme. So know that you might have to drive somewhere. If you're like, well, I don't know where mine is. Wow. You can look it up. Type in a zip code of any kind. You can see all the FedEx locations. Every kind of FedEx location but one does not receive reptiles. So drop boxes, FedEx is inside of things, authorized ship centers, none of those count. None of them. So you have to find... The only thing that counts are FedEx ship centers. The print-in ships don't count. Only these. That's where you pick them up. That's where you drop them off to send them. Nothing else counts. So you'll know which ones they are. If you also want to double check, you can type in your zip code into redline.com. And if it comes up as a possible ship center, then it will accept them. Because, I don't know. People will often send me stuff like packing ships as places where they think they can pick up, and I'm like, no, sorry. So I would check that. I would know that well in advance. Some sellers, even though they could ship Monday through Wednesday, just choose to pick a day to ship each week. Or maybe they always only pick Wednesday. Usually that'll be in their terms of service. Maybe they live 2.5 hours from their FedEx hub. They don't want to arrange it for pickup. They just choose to go every week on Wednesday. So you'll just have to read their terms of service and be like, I can always pick up Thursday. It's fine for my schedule. So I can buy from this person. If you can't, then you can't. Don't buy. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. They live 2 hours away from their hub, so they can't change their schedule. I live kind of far away, not terrible, but I only like to really go once a week. So I can change the day, but I don't want to go back and forth for one box one day and then one box the next day. I'd rather have them piled together or just delay people to the next week. And then you can pick your day that week, if that makes any sense at all. Sometimes sellers will need to wait for a particular temperature of the world because it's not safe. Too cold, too hot, inclement weather, weird weather, floods somewhere weird, fires, other weird delays, computer outages, solar flares, who knows. We don't ship during those times, you'll have to wait. Also, the snake or lizard or whatever would have to be cleared for feeding. Like the digestive tract would have to be like relatively clear. They have to have not eaten recently. So if you buy a snake and it's a Monday night and you're like, can you ship it tomorrow? But the person says, I just fed them on Monday. They're not going to ship it to you. Don't be impatient. You want the snake or lizard or frog to arrive to you in the best condition. And that doesn't mean it might be instantaneous. It could be that week. It could be the next week. Could be 3 months from now. And it's not because they're being mean. It's because they're trying to keep the animal alive. It costs a non-insignificant amount of money. Could be as little as $20 to $30. Could be as much as $150. Some people have flat rate shipping. Some people want to do actual shipping. Some people do flat rate and basically subsidize the shipping so it's as cheap as possible. Some people are like, have a flat rate shipping, but it kind of subsidizes some people and hurts other people depending on the location. So sometimes you might actually get a better deal if you pick the actual person who's doing calculated shipping instead of flat. Because then you're shipping, like if I ship to somebody who's 5 hours away from me, usually shipping could be as little as $20, $25. So if you were paying a flat 50 shipping person, 50, actually, you're covering supplies or whatever, but it would actually be cheaper to pay a person who's calculating actual. So keep that in mind. It may be simpler to pick someone with flat, but sometimes simpler isn't always better. If shipping itself is not for you, you don't really like it that much, that's okay. Lots of sellers will allow you to pay for it and then just arrange pickup. So you can search by location, like miles from your zip code for all of the potential available inventory in your area. And you can just check it out, drive there. Because shipping can be quite cheap if it's close, a lot of times it's cheaper to have it shipped if it's like over 5 hours away. But if the animal's like quite expensive or you're going that way anyway, or you can like sync it up with a reptile show, often it's just better to have it picked up. When messaging the person, wherever you message them, you gotta remember they aren't a chat bot, a large language model. They're either the breeder themselves, an employee of a breeder, or the employee of a pet store or wholesaler. So they're not fake. A lot of people, they forget their niceties. They didn't remember their manners. There's a lot of incomplete thoughts. People largely act like it's texting when it really should be more like emailing in many ways. Sort of semi-formal, especially initially. Like, I think the perfect opening is, hello, I would like to buy this snake. My name is Jessica Hare. Here's my phone number, my email, my ship center for the label. When I buy, I can pick up anytime from Tuesday to Thursday. every week, always? And what method by which would you prefer for me to pay? Thank you, Jessica. Like, I gave you all the information to process. I just need to know what your preferred payment method is, because I already know I want it. If you're on Morph Market, some of the Great Family Snakes. If you're on Morph Market, and you're like, oh, I want to buy this snake. Very nice snake. Some people have the buy it now turned on, which basically charges your credit card immediately through Square. So you don't actually have to sort of go through the part where you figure out how you want to pay. They've already decided that they will accept credit cards through Square, and you decide you want it, and then it'll instigate a prompt that says, like, I agree to their terms of service. Remember, we were supposed to read it first, and it charges you, and there's no shipping. So pretty easy. And then you'll start talking to them after they confirm that they want you to buy it, and you'll have time to message them afterwards. But you have to be sure, right? The other way to do it on Morph Market is inquire to buy. So that's where you're like, hi, I'd like to buy it. Here's my info. Please send me a invoice through QuickBooks or whatever you want. And you're accepting all this, and you already read anything. You read everything about the animal. Easy, same thing. And you're giving them all the information at the beginning. But what if you're not ready to buy it? You have a question. We love questions. Questions are fine. But they shouldn't necessarily be questions about how to take care of a ball python. They should be like, ooh, I don't know. Like, for this animal, does it fit my projects? What do you think? What do you think, Roger? What do you think? And so you say, like, I'd like to buy this animal, but I'm not sure if it's right for me. They say they have TSK, right? And then they go, is TSK and VPI compatible? And then Roger could say, no, maybe this animal's not right for you. So they can go through that with this, like, front-loaded question. So I think a lot of the times I've struggled with messaging is when, like, it's a lot of back and forth of, like, single thoughts and statements, like it's a text chain instead of an email. Like, they have one question, I answer it, and they have another question, and I answer it, and it's been going on for 48 hours. Then they want pictures, and then I answer that, and that's fine. But all of those questions could probably have been front loaded, because they're not, like, necessarily unique questions. Like, is it still on frozen thawed, or is it have a good personality, or whatever. All of those could be front loaded in the very first message, which would save sort of like time for the vendor. So think really hard about what you want to ask. Have a coherent thought, coherent thoughts that you've codified together. What do you need from the vendor? If you need to ask them a question, that's fine. But for me, it's not a chat. We're not chatting. Formal email. Give me your questions. I'll answer them all. I'll put a bullet point. I'll do it. But the, like, 48 hours of talking that's hard on vendors. And you'd be like, well, you should be good at customer service. And I'm like, well, you should be good at having coherent thoughts. So let's fight about it. If you have a specific need for more pictures, videos, whatever, and there's something that you're like, man, I need blank. Like, here's a picture of the animal. Here's a picture of the clutch. Seems great. I think this is enough information about this snake to make a decision on what it looks like. But some people would say, no, I need a picture of the belly. Okay, fine. I'm sure they would do it. But you need to ask that, because sometimes people will be like, can I have more pictures? But you're just like, pictures of what? What do you need more of? And I partially, like, attribute this to, like, the advice for people who buy on Facebook a lot, that if you get more pictures, you get proof that they actually have it, because they have redundant copies of pictures of the same animals in new settings. But you're not on Facebook. You're on a platform that only has breeders on it. Not all good breeders, but mostly breeders, pet stores, whatever. You don't necessarily need more pictures. So if you do, for a very specific reason, like, I want to see the conformation of the head. So I need a picture of the head in profile. Okay, great. Just ask that very specifically in the first inquiry. Or like, I need a video sent to my Instagram, a short one, of it in your hands so I can see its size relative to your hands. Because I don't understand grams. It just doesn't jazz out for me with the weight. Can you just like show it to me in your hand so I can like think of the size perspective? Great. That's a great request. Love that. Just ask early. Just make that the very first inquiry. And like, and most people be like, sure. I think it's just like it feels like you're going back and forth a long time. And it's not an insane amount of time wasted doing the customer service part. It is a trying time, a challenge, especially when they like give up after that 48 hours and decide it's not the right snake for them, which is still their prerogative to do. But if they had front-loaded all of those questions and requests at the beginning, I think the vendor would have been less sad overall. A lot of people get blocked for stuff like that. So if you ever want to buy from someone, part of that courtesy process is asking in advance whatever you need. And maybe they can't provide the video, and so you're like, cool, I don't want it. Thank you for your time. It's okay to want more stuff that's in the content, but I don't know why a lot of times, why they want more. But if you do, be specific. Because I've had people ask for pictures, not get what they wanted from the first set, and ask for a second one, like of the belly or something. And you're like, well, you should have asked that the first time instead of just being like, I want more pictures. Be specific. Your request will be answered easier, I think. Also be cognizant of like the picture dates. A lot of times people will put the date they changed the pictures or updated it in the description. So if somebody took a brand new picture 2 weeks ago for a snake, updated it, do you really need a new picture? Is the snake materially different in the last 2 weeks? No, not really. Sorry. No. Or if all of the snakes of that species are like incredibly uniform. You can get individual pictures, I guess, to begin with, but like, does it really matter that much? If you got an updated picture of a Mexican Black King, when its 6-month-old picture was already all the way black, it's gonna also be all the way black. There's no ontogenetic change at that point. It's done. It's already done. Do you need more pictures? I don't think so. And I think the longer you're in it, the more you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. I don't need more pictures. You know, it's fine. You don't need proof that it's still a black snake. Just chill out. Chill out. The longer you're in, the more you'll chill. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you have special requests, payment plans, holding shipping until after a vacation when you get back, paying for it, but maybe holding it until a new litter comes out so you can add a new one from the new litter to the one you already bought. In those special requests, I would ask early, get like permission that that's cool with the vendor. Most of them aren't cool. Most of them will hold it till whenever, maybe not 6 months, but you know, if they need to wait an extra 2 weeks until you get back from vacation, not a problem. Just ask that early to establish that it's a need that you have, instead of like having 20 back and forths and then settling on a price and then asking for a payment plan and then can't ship it until I get back from vacation. It's just part of being courteous to the seller. And special requests is also true for disease testing. A lot of people will let you do it, but you need to ask in advance. Otherwise, like, you're blindsiding them. So just ask in advance. If they say no, then you don't need to buy it. If they say yes, then ask them what they're comfortable with. Some would be like, test immediately, test within the first week, test like for crypto, the first couple of poops, whatever. So ask that in advance also. Or if you don't want to ask in advance and you're just going to eat it, then eat it. But it's better just to be honest, I think, in general, in life. and try to be as fair as possible to the seller. The other thing, and this sort of personal problem here, is temperament is not guaranteed. Like, I can tell you as best I can what the temperament's going to be, but it could go in that box, get scared, come out the box, be scared, and then when you go to handle it after it chills for 4 days, it's just still scared. So you're going to have to teach it to be nice again. Or vice versa. Maybe I think it's a little iffy, but in your place, it sort of chills out because it's just a new environment, new stimuli. Temperament isn't really fixed. It's a process. There's some innate properties to snakes that make them less defensive, or lizards or whatever, less defensive initially. But the people who are really hyper fixated on temperament, sometimes I doubt what's going on. Like, do you want an animal or do you want a toy? Because they're like, I need a snake that loves handling, that physically is incapable of biting. I'm going to give it to my kid day one and not supervise it. And I need it to know that it's like bomb proof. I'm like, what? What? Most little snakes are not like that yet. And most adult snakes that haven't been handled very much aren't like that yet. So if you want it to be that, a lot of times you still need to do some work in gaining that animal's trust anyway, even if it was pretty nice. So I think people have unrealistic expectations about temperament. I think I try to be honest about it in my ads, but I still think people are unrealistic. You still need to work with the animal and learn its behavior and mannerisms. You can't just pre-buy a trained snake. They've been desensitized to stimuli to some extent, but they're not a toy. They're not an automaton, you know? Have some respect and know that if you're going to buy a pet, you're going to have to do something about it. If you really, 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 really want it to be as nice as possible, I'd get an older one of whatever species that was in like a single snake home, frankly, that was played with a lot. Very desensitized. That's my opinion. If you're buying babies, you're buying, you know, a lot of instincts, and sort of those instincts could be triggered because it hasn't been alive for more than 3 months. You know, it's as simple as that. But I just want people to be a little bit more lenient on baby animals, breeder animals, because you can still habituate them to new stimuli, even adults. You know, you just have to do it. And some people are scared, but if you do, you can do it. It's a living thing. Just play with it. Just be nice, and it'll get nicer through time because it'll know it's not being hurt. Simple as that. A lot of vendors have multiple ways to pay for your snake, and they don't always accept all of the same things. So I would also have multiple ways to pay for your snake or lizard, because they all don't always agree. Some of them are Zelle only, which is an interesting choice because my Zelle is maxed out at $250 per day can be sent. So I wouldn't go all in on Zelle, but some of them are. And so if you have multiples and they have multiples, hopefully one of them will work for both of you. That's how you would pay. And then you can obviously ask after purchase questions. That's totally fine. If I get a lot of after purchase questions, especially way later, it's fine, but it makes me a little bit sad because that means you weren't ready for the snake to begin with, and then you didn't ask me before the snake, and now what has the snake been doing the whole time? Is the snake okay? So I don't like those. They make me sad. If you need it to save the snake, it's fine. I'll answer. I had to now. But ask, if you really don't know, ask in the beginning. Even if it's at a show or something, I hand out a care sheet. It has the hot side, cold side, whatever you need, so you can do a good job. Look it up. But you don't need to be re-explained how to take care of something that you were supposed to know how to take care of before you bought it. It's a bad sign. Don't do that. Learn about it before you buy it. Double check whatever sort of husbandry details with the seller when you go to buy. And then if you have a question that only the seller can answer, ask them later if you need to. Like, oh, when was the birthday? I forgot to write it down. That's fine. It's fine. We love that. But if you have to re-ask all of the husbandry information 6 months later, there's a problem. We have a problem. Don't do that. Learn about it in advance. Was that too pedantic? Let's go back to space. So that was my tips. I don't have a ton of tips. I mean, I guess it was a long time. And I think we're going to do more versions of these, like deciding about more topics related to this topic of which one to buy, when, and where. Maybe what I would buy, when and where of a particular set. What are red flags, green flags, but like just the mechanics of buying is somewhat complicated, actually. Hopefully I can edit this together in a coherent way. If not... and then for any vendors or buyers, you could put your recommended tips for the other party. Because technically buyers may have a specific preference that sellers don't know about yet. Maybe they want to be preemptively given 500 pictures the second they message. Maybe that's what they want. Let me know in the comments down below. And then sellers, if you have any other tips for like the mechanics of selling a snake to each other or a lizard. One thing that I don't like, and it might be because I'm a millennial, but I don't like the instant jump to a phone call. They've always been fine, but if you're just like, hey, call me, 555 dildo, I want to buy the snake, I'm usually like, no. I don't have the time to have a 20, 30, 40-minute conversation with you about the hobby right this second. Usually, because usually they want to do it immediately because they're driving. I will do it eventually, but it makes you, to me, seem kind of like disingenuous. Because if you really wanted to buy it, you would just buy it. And if you needed a phone consult because you needed information about building your collection or something, great. Just schedule a time. We'll figure it out when our schedules match up. But I don't like that, like, instantaneous, call me right this second. Where they'll call me cold using my phone number on Wharf Market. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? I don't usually answer the phone, to be honest. Like, send me a message, set up a time. Be like, I need to talk to you about corn dogs. Great. I'll call you on the phone. But most people don't use phones like that anymore. Just so you know. We use a combination. We don't necessarily call all the time. That's a tip that I just thought of right now. You know? Everyone uses their phones differently. And then in general, be nice to each other. There's a lot of mean people. I don't like that. A lot of like full sentences, polite, semi-professional language, coherent thoughts, full thoughts, please, thank you, good morning, good evening, etc. Do all that and you'll succeed in life. Thanks to our sponsors. I don't know if you noticed, but this is a substitution for the podcast this week. Because you know what? It's been a week. Kelley, Small Town Xotics, Bravo Zulu ball pythons, Stoneage ball pythons, Powerhouse pythons, Gray family snakes, and Crested Venus Reptilia, and all of the cool, fun, awesome, special, amazing, succulent channel members. Look at all of them. My gosh, there's so many. Heavy breathing. Thank you, everybody. I hope to do more things like this. Edited, constructed, non-live stuff. stuff. Hopefully I don't have to do any more takes. Alright, I'll see you later.